Chapter 16 today in Proverbs. Again, thanks for being with us. Michael, meta themes. There's a little bit, maybe a little bit about pride here. We've seen some of that. Little bit of speech. I would struggle to say there's anything that's just very obvious. So we'll jump in. I like verse 5. All those who are arrogant are an abomination to the Lord, and be assured they will not go unpunished.
Way
abomination
to
is
pick abomination as the first verse today. Welcome,
abomination
everybody.
is a strong. This is an interesting text that God despises arrogance, and the author, rests assured they will not go unpunished. That arrogance is something punishable, that to think of yourself as above others, over others, more important than others, smarter than others, more valuable than others, that this is a thing that God hates and that the author believes is worthy of punishment, which is staggering considering the other things that God punishes. When we think of sins, we think of arrogance as kind of a personality defect, but I don't know that we consider it sinful. But I think it's a helpful reminder in the book of Proverbs that arrogance is dangerous and is the exact way away from wisdom.
Yeah, I think that to us and our experience of other people who are arrogant, we would probably describe them as frustrating, maybe even angering. But that's from a very human perspective. I think that's because sometimes arrogant people can be grating, right? But you have to look at this from a scriptural perspective. The Lord is the creator of all things. God is the maker. And wisdom is the way of living that reflects God's original intention for the world. And those who are arrogant are seeking to not only put themselves above others, which is why arrogant people can be very caustic, but they are imitating, and sometimes even in their own way of thinking, they're trying to subvert God. They're trying to be greater than God. Arrogance does not give glory, honor, due diligence, due privilege to God. And that is ultimately an abomination. That's why it gets that strong of language, because anything that sets itself against and over the Creator Lord is by definition out of place.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is always worth remembering that we serve God. We are not Him. And that's a good proverb. I would highlight the next one for me, verse 8. Better a little with righteousness than a large income with injustice. We saw this a little bit last chapter, the idea that you are better off doing things right than being rewarded for doing things wrong. Proverbs is not maybe the first book you would look in for social justice. So it is always nice to highlight those proverbs that do point us in that direction as a reminder that the book doesn't disregard it completely. The book has a little different lens through which I think it sees it, but you're better to have a little and be right and righteous specifically than to have a lot but be unjust.
I was going to point our attention to verse 9. The human mind plans the way, but the Lord directs the steps. I've known lots of people on this continuum. Some people are planners. Some people are not planners, and they like to be flexible and sort of fly by the seat of their pants. But as someone who can empathize with the planners, I'm not sure if I'm the most planned person I've ever met. No, I'm certain I'm not. But as someone who can appreciate the plan, there is a kind of temptation in trusting the plan. And Clint, we have this experience a lot when you take groups on mission trips. The planners digest the itinerary, right? When you send out, this is the schedule, the planners look over that schedule. They inevitably send me an email with, what about this transition? Or are you sure we're gonna have enough time here? And the thing that has to be said every trip is, okay, this is about experiencing God and letting God show up. We have a plan, but we can't guarantee that this plan is going to go as it is ordered on this piece of paper. And that, for those for whom the plan is chief, that is an unbelievably difficult thing to accept.
Yeah, planners are tough on mission trips. My experience, especially this is true in Latin America, Southern America, Mexico, where if someone says, I'll come by at 10 o'clock to pick up your group, that may be 10 o'clock, that may be 11 o'clock, that may be 12 o'clock, and that's sort of baked into some cultures. And the type A folks from America who are there to help and want to get, as many hours in the day in working as possible can really struggle with that. So yeah, I think in every trip I've been a part of, we always have to start with the flexibility conversation. Back to this other theme, 16. How much better to get wisdom than gold? To get understanding is chosen rather than silver. Lots of people would not agree with that, but the author of Proverbs is going to say that. And then following up on the arrogance conversation, verse 18, pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. This is a pretty classic theme of literature, of dramas, of plays, of movies. The idea that we sort of like to see the proud person stumble. We feel like they kind of deserve it. And here the author is projecting that when we are proud, we are setting ourselves up for failure. And I think he might even include we deserve it.
Right. Going back just a tad to verse 11, I picked out honest balances and scales are the Lord's. All the weights in the bag are his work. You mentioned the social justice piece. What strikes me, Clint, is isn't Lady Liberty or is it Lady Justice is blindfolded? Justice in the statues. And that is a helpful image as we seek to be a country that values equality. But this, I think, is a helpful balance to that scale to remind us that honest balances and scales, which I also believe Lady Justice is holding a balance. I think she's holding a scale. And that ultimately justice is by God's definition. And that humans, to whatever extent we work our way towards that, are living lives marked by wisdom. But let's not forget that it is not some sort of nationalistic ideal that defines justice, that God is the determiner of justice.
Yeah, and the image here is helpful. In the ancient world, there would literally be a balance, and you would set pomegranates on it, and then they would put the stones so that you could be charged. And if they had light stones, if they looked like they were real, but say they were hollowed out or something, then you would be charged more. It would be like a dishonest gas pump or a dishonest scale in our era. And that was a way of cheating people. And as we all know, economic injustice tends to affect the poor the most because it takes the most percentage of their income. An extra dollar to most of us would be something we would be irritated about, but it wouldn't be something that would affect us. Those kind of things affect the poor and therefore are especially judged in relationship to taking care of those in need.
I had 22. Did you have anything before that?
No. Go ahead.
22, wisdom is a fountain of life to one who has it, but folly is the punishment of fools. I want to be careful, really to promote wisdom in a book that's all about wisdom is a little defeating, but I think this image of the fountain of life is interesting because we literally have that in our own lore. Maybe not contemporary lore, but that idea of finding a fountain of youth, right? That you could find a place, that you could find water that would bring life. I think it's interesting here that we see wisdom cast as that fountain. And I think we maybe sometimes underestimate the value of humility and learning and inquisitiveness and flexibility, the things that are markers of wisdom, of earning and gaining a character of wisdom. These are the things that have the end result of giving you a life that's full, right? Not that sort of quest to go find something outside of yourself, not this desire to climb ladders and to achieve some measure of success. No, wisdom is that measure, and we would all do well to slow down and pursue it.
Yeah, very good. The next verse I had was 25. Sometimes there is a way that seems to be right, but in the end, it is the way of death. We talked yesterday a little bit about humility and the idea of when you believe yourself to be right, having the humility to listen to other opinions and to question that assumption in the chance that you can be wrong. And when we give up the idea that we can be wrong, we may be blazing confidently ahead, going exactly the wrong direction. And so I think it is an apt word of caution. And again, it's especially if we hear this as a book written to the young who are passionate and go-getters. Sometimes it seems that you're right, but in the end, you're not. Sometimes it seems like you're moving toward wisdom and life, but you're actually going the other way, and that's a good word of caution.
I think the only one I have left, Clint, is verse 31, maybe a strange one.
Yeah, I also had 31. It's good news to some of us.
Gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life. And I am by no one's measure old, so I get to kind of say this.
Maybe your kids.
Yeah, with a little bit of impunity. But I think I've more and more learned that we live in a culture that doesn't know what to do with older people. Age is a thing that I didn't even realize as a young person. I think it's the water that you swim in. But I think it's good news to hear that wisdom, especially in the person who's engaged the practice of learning and growing in wisdom, that person has so much to offer the world. Now, we all know that age does not equal wisdom, that there are people who have lots of years but have not grown into a character of wisdom. But those who have gray hair and it's become a crown of glory, societies, families, parents, communities absolutely, desperately need that kind of wisdom, that kind of foresight to be able to speak to what has been seen and what might come. And that doesn't get enough emphasis culturally, in my opinion. And so I just think that's good. That's a good nod to something that we as Americans should remember.
I also had that proverb highlighted and mostly from observation, but increasingly from personal experience. I have, I think, come to realize something of how difficult it is to age well. And unfortunately, how few people seem to manage it. To face those later years in our life where we slow down and we may have health concerns or we may experience physical pain as well as other whatever struggles there are, where we have increasingly less autonomy and freedom and decision-making and power over some of our own conditions and some of our own life, and to remain gracious, to remain joyful, to remain optimistic, to remain interested in others. It seems to me, as an observer mostly, that is exceedingly difficult. When I've dabbled in it or dipped my toe in it in my own aging experiences, man, that is tough. It is hard to age well. Now, there's some luck in it, but there is a lot of, I think, preparing for it. Because it's sort of like parenting a teenager. If you wait until it happens to start trying to do it, it's probably too late. And if we wait until we have the crown of gray hair to start seeking wisdom, chances are we've not left ourselves maybe enough time to find as much of it as we need.
Yeah, and this next comment is not directly connected to verse 31. It's a little bit of a side road. But I was once struck, I did some reading, I think it was in undergrad. I was studying a pastor on the East Coast for a class I was taking. And one of the things that he wrote extensively about, this is, it's like 1700s pastor, Northeast United States, very early. And he wrote extensively about the idea of dying well, theologically. What does it mean to be those who are prepared to die? And he was thinking about, not morbidly, though that might strike us as a morbid subject, but he meant it in the positive sense. What does it look like to live a life that one gets to that moment and one is ready to experience eternal bliss, being in the arms of a loving God? And that conversation for a young person was very striking. It left an impression on me that the life that we live leads us in a direction that does impact how our life ends. And like you said, what that looks like for each of us is different, but it's not just sort of a morbid reflection on a reality. It's actually an opportunity to trust that God goes with us on this journey of life. And if we are humble enough to allow God to change us, then ideally we're people who are ready to enter into that heavenly glory when that time comes.
Yeah. I think that one of the struggles as we age is that we experience a progressive system, I guess, of losses. We lose some of our abilities. We lose some of our stamina. We may lose driving. We may lose some independence. And in that window, especially, in later life, I think the experience is far more losing than gaining. And if we have relied on wealth and status and mobility and whatever it is, as those things go away, I think we will find ourselves very much disenfranchised, disillusioned, upset. I think that's where some of the bitterness and anxiety of age can come in. But as I look in my own life to the people who have handled that well and made those transitions well, they are able to continue to focus on what they've not lost, their faith, the love of family. They continue to be others focused, even in a time where it would be easy to be selfish and mainly concerned about me. And they don't just start doing that. They've developed that over a long period of time. And so they're ready to age. And I suspect lots of people aren't ready to age and therefore maybe don't do it well. But when the scripture says the crown of gray is glory, I think partly it could mean that those who live ultimately in a way that will help them later are the ones who find wisdom, find godliness.
Yeah, and we've been speaking about that from the perspective of someone who might have that hair.
Sure.
I think you flip that around. This is clearly an injunction to those who are young. Listen. Listen to someone who has earned wisdom. Listen to someone who's farther down the road. Stop pretending like you know everything, because you don't, and that needs heard.
Sure, and I think those who are listening would attest to, it would be very hard to say to your younger self, trust me, you don't believe me, but you cannot begin to imagine how quickly 10, 20, 40, 50 years go by. That you, right when you're 20, you think of time as essentially limitless.
Right.
And the opportunities that go with that time is limitless. And then as those doors start closing and you begin to navigate a way through them, and the next thing you know, you're looking back on a significant portion of your life And that's just that's very difficult to imagine when you're young. And so the injunction to use that time well is important.
Well, friends, hopefully there was something in there that connected. We're glad that you spent some time with us today, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for spending time with us today as we study Scripture together. If you haven't already, we would invite you to follow us on Facebook or subscribe on YouTube. It's a great way to get notified when these studies happen every day at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Of course, if you've already done that, we would love for you to be able to give the video a like, to share it if you're on Facebook. This is a great way for other people to find the Bible study and be able to join us in this time studying Scripture. If this is your first time here, welcome. It's such a joy to have you be with us this day, and we would love to get to know you better. We would love if you wouldn't mind just taking a minute to go to our website, fpcspiritlake.org/welcome. We'd love to get your name and email address, and we'll follow up with you personally to thank you for spending time with us this day. And for each and every person that is able to study Scripture and engage in this conversation, we want to say thank you. We look forward to our next time with you every weekday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And until then, God bless.